Alright, hello YouTube. Slightly different setup first of all. I'm actually using a webcam instead of my phone, which is on charge behind the webcam. And I've got a microphone literally here. Hope you can hear me. Because I really thought my sound and video quality needs to improve a bit. I've also got an interface here, which I'm plugging my bass directly into. So hopefully the sound quality is a lot better than it ever has been. Let's get into the video. Right, so this video is going to be about walking bass lines and just how to come up with them off the top of your head, which is obviously what you've got to do in a live situation. What I'm looking at my computer screen instead of my... I'm recording this in school in my room, so there's an annoying kid here trying to throw stuff at me. And if he photo bombs, I'm just going to have to blur him out if I can. My camera's there. Yeah, I've babbled on. You've probably already clicked off the video, but let's get into it. Right, so for this, we're just going to be using a 12-bar blues backing track, which I still haven't found, but I'm going to try and make it in B flat or something, maybe E, because that is every guitarist's favourite key. But it really doesn't matter what key it's in. Right, so I found myself a backing track in B flat major for the bass, and it's 5 minutes long, so I'm not going to put you through the pain of listening to me improvise a walking bass line for 5 minutes, so maybe 30 seconds if you're really lucky. So this is basically just a sample, for want of a better word, and I'll show you how to come up with your own lines after this. Right, so that is just a rougher estimate of, I say rougher, yeah. It's just sort of the sort of thing you play in a context like that. And so the chords here, because I can't remember them off by heart, and it won't let me scroll. Right, the chords are B flat 7 for 1 bar, then E flat 7 for 1 bar, then B flat 7 for 2 bars, E flat 7 for 1 bar, E diminished for 1 bar, then B flat 7 for 1 bar, then D half diminished, then G7, C minor 7, then F7, then B flat for half a bar, G for half a bar, C minor 7 for half a bar, then F7 for half a bar, then back to B flat. That is the whole cycle. And the best way to start practicing this, sorry I'm having to drag the tabs around on my computer at the same time. Best way to practice this sort of thing is just start off playing the root notes of each chord just on each beat of the bar. So you just play B flat 7, E flat 7, B flat 7, B flat 7. Not saying it obviously, but you can't see my bass as well. I should probably fix that. That's better. Now you can sort of see my face as well. Hi. But anyway, and if you were to just go through, I'll restart the backing track and play that for you just with the root notes. I'll only go around once. Right, so that was once around, and now the next step to doing this, because as you know all chords are made up of 3 or 4 notes, depending on if it's got an added 7th or 9th or whatever, but just your standard major chord is made up of 3 notes, and minor chord for that matter, and lots of other chords, but you don't need to know those. Just the root, which if you're in B flat major, the root of the first chord will be B flat, B flat, flat. That sounds really sharp, but it's a B flat, trust me. And D and F. Those three notes all make up the major chord, the major triad. And you can play those all up and down the bass. Stop it.
I didn't mean to do that.
So those are the three notes that you'll always be safe on. The third, the root, and the fifth. Unless it's something like a diminished where you've got like a flat 5 or it says something weird. But those three notes will keep you safe. And for minor chords, I'm coming at this from a beginner's point of view because some of you might be beginners and I'm surprised you come to me first. But for a minor chord, let's take F minor. You'd have your F, A flat. That's your minor triad. But a major triad would be F, A, C, because it's A natural instead of A flat, which is the flattened third, which is why a minor chord is minor, because it has a flat third. But now, back to the backing track, which I'm using as a reference. The best way, the next thing you do, once you got down and you knew exactly where you were going with the chords, you go through and just play root 3 5 3 root 3 5 3 root. I spent ages doing this. I literally spent probably 2 months. Whenever I saw a walking bass line, I'd just play. That was just the form with root 3 5 3 on every bar. And for the bars where you have two chords in the bar, for instance, the penultimate bar in this is B flats 7 and G7. You just play a tonic third, tonic third, tonic third, tonic third. Well, I played the fifth there, but tonic third, because you don't have time unless you were to do something, which sounds stupid. So now I'm going to go through and play it again, but only using the root third and the fifth. And for the E diminished chord, I'm not going to play an E diminished chord, I'm just going to do octave E's. And also for D half diminished, I'm just going to get that because I'll get into the diminished chords later. This is how it sounds. Right, so that's the next step in doing this. Well, is sort of an intermediate step between those. You could just go playing the root and the fifth, just sort of. And that is pretty much the intermediate step to the previous two. And then after that, you've obviously just done what I've just shown you. And after that, you're going to start worrying about things like the seventh chords and the minor seventh chords and the diminished chords, which I said I was going to come on to later, so yay. The thing with diminished chords is they nearly always have, well, they always have a flat fifth pretty much. So an E diminished would be, you can see you've got E, G, B flat, G, E. And for the D half diminished would be D, F, A flat instead of, which is D minor. You'd have the flat fifth in there, which is the basic principle for a diminished chord. But most of these chords here are sevenths, so I don't know if I can be bothered to put the chords up on the screen, but you'll see that actually all of the chords, save the diminished ones, have a 7 in front of them. That's just the right thing to do for jazz. It's the stylistically correct thing. And so the seventh in a chord is the, well, if you play out the major scale, I'm just going to take B flat major as an example. The seventh note, because there are 8 notes in the major scale, is the A. Now, the B flat 7 should in theory then mean that your B flat 7 arpeggio will sound like this. And if you would agree with that, you're half correct. for some obscure reason, that's actually B flat major 7 arpeggio, because you call it the major 7th, because a normal B flat 7 chord or an arpeggio would be. So we actually call it a flat 7, but we don't. You just put B flat 7, and they'd know to play a flat 7th. But if you put major 7, they will play the major 7th in the chord, obviously.
Not necessarily.
So, shut up. I didn't say anything rude there. I just said SHUTUP because I probably bleeped out what I said. Because, yeah. Child-friendly channel. But, so if this is B flat 7, this is E flat 7. And this bass is weird. That sounds almost like that. But and for C minor 7, you just take your C minor arpeggio, and then you just put the minor 7th again in, because even though it's got a minor, it's, take my word for it, please. C minor 7 is, but yeah. So now I'm going to go through all these, and I'm just going to play either the root note, the 3rd, the 5th, or the 7th. And again, for the diminished chords, I'm just going to stick to octaves, because, again, I think we'll get to the diminished chords. Actually, no, I've already covered the diminished chords. Screw it, I'm going to put the diminished notes in as well. See how this sounds. Right, those are actually, I've got one more thing to cover before I think you're in a position to suitably read off a walking bass line at sight, and that is just adding scale notes. That's what they're called, I think. So you heard earlier how I played the B flat major scale. Now you can start adding in notes from that scale, but they've got to sound relevant, and this relies sort of on how good your ears are. But for instance, if I were to just do a walking bass line over just B flat 7, this wouldn't really sound that good. I mean, sounds acceptable, but I was deliberately putting in the major 7th, which you're not meant to do, even though it's in the major scale. And 7ths, unless they say so, you should probably steer clear of using them as scale notes, because they're already arpeggio notes. But this would be an acceptable line to play over B flat 7. And what I said about the major 7 is probably not that true. You can use it, but it's to be used sparingly, I suppose. Sorry if I misled you there. Right, I'm going to play this once more for you, then my saxophone playing friend, who's been annoying me for the past 18 minutes and 38 seconds, is going to attempt to play a solo over this chord sequence, which should sound,
Sorry.
You didn't hear what he said, but it was a rude word, so... you can just see his arm poking out from the frame, because he said he says wishes to remain anonymous, and unless he chooses to put his head into the frame, he will remain anonymous. So he's got his saxophone, and hopefully you can still hear me. I had to move the microphone because it was distorting a bit. But I'm going to put the same backing track on. Hopefully he can read off the chords. Okay, he's asked me to tell you that he's only going to be playing over B flat because he can't read chords and transpose at the same time, which is not really that brilliant for a saxophonist of his caliber, he should be able to do that really. But I'm going to put the backing track on, and hopefully he knows when to start. So I'm going to play a walking bass line. I might even take a solo if you're really lucky.
Oh, okay. Ooh,
So you can go twice around. I'll go twice around. Right, guys, that's going to have to round it up for today's video because I've got not very long to edit and put this out before I go to my next lesson, because I am in school recording this in a few moments of spare time I happen to have, namely about an hour. So that's going to have to do it. I hope you enjoyed the lesson / demo / hear me play a really bad solo episode of Ben's guitar channel thing. So please like it, because it took not very long to make, but please like it anyway. And obviously thanks for watching this. Keep up with what I do, because I don't do an awful lot, but I'd like to think that what I do is relatively okay. So I'm not going to bother saying subscribe, even though I've just said it. Subscribe, like, blah blah blah. Comment on what I should do next, because I'm almost running out of ideas. Is that the right thing to say for my 5th video? I think not. But I've said what I've said about 3 times. Goodbye.